Welcome everyone to today's presentation on the 1792 silver and non-silver center cents. Today's presenter, Robert Rodriguez, has prepared quite a great presentation for today, so I'm going to go ahead and just pass it on over to him.
Well, thank you, Matthew. Good morning from the West Coast and to all you early morning risers. I'd like to thank the Newman Numismatic Portal for sponsoring this symposium, and a special thank you to Leanna Spurrier and her team for helping make this happen. To all you attending on this presentation, I hope you'll find the 1792 Morris Silver Center cent, so-called. I hope it proves to be both fascinating and informative. My name is Robert Rodriguez, and I will be presenting the findings of the team comprised of Tony Lopez, Maureen and Stuart Levine. As team leader, it was an absolute joy to work with such consummate professionals. Okay. Oh, I'll get this. Here we go. By way of background, I am a high-end collector who re-entered the numismatic field 6 years ago after a 53-year absence. I've been assembling a major collection of early federal coinage, 1792 patterns, colonials, and Comitia Americana medals, which are now held in the Resolute Americana collection. The collection of 1792 patterns now ranks among the very finest ever assembled. 1792 mint patterns have been an area of extensive research for me. After acquiring the Walcott specimen, Judd 2, back in January of 2016, I initiated the largest XRF study of Judd 2 patterns that same month to determine whether a fusible alloy cent did in fact have silver in its composition. Alan Weinberg joined me at PCGS in having our respective coins tested by them. Pete Smith's article in the Numismatist, September of 2016, Arsenic and Old Cents, memorialized this endeavor. A 1792 silver center cent was an important rarity for me that I wanted to add to the collection. As such, this led me to the Morris specimen, which was to be auctioned by Stack's Bowers on November 9, 2017 at their Rarities Night in Baltimore, lot 10,003. 2 weeks prior to the auction, Ron Guth, founder of the Numismatic Detective Agency, and I discussed the Morris. His comments and my own research had raised concerns about it, but the issue of the silver plug was not yet clear to me. A review of the volume 1792 Birth of a Nation's Coinage by Joel Rose, Pete Smith, and Len Augsburger, pages 138 and 139, provided intriguing insight with the following comment. The plug is off center. It is apparent that the Morris plug is not original, with the curve, meaning the hair curl, out of position. 8 days before the auction, I assembled the research team that I just referenced. We published our first commentaries about the coin on the Newman Numismatic Portal on November 15th, 2017, and this was followed up on the eSylum on November 17th. Over the ensuing 2 years, we published additional commentaries. I would like to make this clear. Throughout this entire process, covering these nearly 2 years, I placed myself on restriction from acquiring a Judd 1 so that there would be absolutely no appearance of a conflict of interest in our research. I would not remove this restriction until our research had been accepted and made public. Heritage auctions remove the Morris specimen from its census of genuine Judd 1s in their catalog description of the Weinberg specimen for their upcoming auction in January 2019 at Fun. In their auction catalog, it states, quote, "The former Charles Morris and California specimens have been delisted since recent research indicates their silver plugs are not original," end quote. When this occurred, I removed my purchase restriction. I am happy to say this wonderful coin from my colleague Alan Weinberg entered the Resolute collection on January 10th, 2019. Finally, Tony Lopez and I have been conducting the most advanced scientific research ever attempted in the numismatic field on a 1792 silver Dean Judd 9. This investigation has taken place at the Argonne National Laboratory's Advanced Photon Source Synchrotron. This is the first coin ever to be subjected to high-intensity X-ray microdiffraction. Through this process, we have been able to recover what was thought to be permanently lost surface information from the subsurface metal lattice. A paper will be forthcoming after we complete our research in this new field that is now referred to as cultural heritage research. With that, let's begin. Let me introduce you to the Morris. It is a wonderful coin. It's a beautiful 1792 pattern. However, as you will find out, there are significant issues with this coin. Here we compare the Newman Judd 1 versus the Morris. We established a common reference device, a red line, that begins between the lips and touches the earlobe. What one can see from these is that on the Newman, the silver plug not only touches the red line, it goes above it. Whereas on the Morris, the silver plug is decidedly lower. When we established the reference line for the reverse, we used the base of the letter of the word 1. And as you can see, the Newman plug rises, goes above that red line, whereas the Morris is decidedly lower. Let's go to the next slide. In slide 3, this is the first and most complete representation of genuine Judd 1s. In this slide, we have the 12 genuine Judd 1s in the center. On the right, we have a Judd 1A and a Judd 2. And on the left, we have the Modesto police specimen and the Morris. In each case of the Judd 1s, of the genuine, their plugs are either tangential to the red line or they go above it. Even in the case of the Newman 1A, the hole there does contact the red line. I will focus on this in a later point. In terms of the Modesto police specimen, the silver plug had been apparently removed and a iron alloy center had been substituted that was caught several years ago. Again, the Morris silver plug is a complete outlier from all genuine Judd 1s. Let's go to slide 4. Here we are on the reverse. Again, the 12 in the center are the genuine ones, and in each case, all of the plugs are either tangential or above the red reference line. The same goes for the Judd 1A. The Modesto police specimen we do not have indicated with anything because the word 1 was so obliterated we couldn't find it. However, I'm highly confident that that plug is in the right position. In the case of the Morris, the reverse plug, as you can see, is considerably lower. Again, the Morris is a complete outlier. Let's go to slide 5. Here we are analyzing the hair curl. The red arrows indicate the area that we are focusing on. If we look at the Newman, Bushnell, Partridge, Garrett, and Norweb, each of their hair curls has an indentation. However, when we view the Morris with the question mark, you see it has an arc, not an indentation. Therefore, the hair curl on the Morris is completely different from that of the genuine Judd 1s. Let's go to slide 6. Slide 5, continue, excuse me. Here we do a transparent overlay. The Norweb is on the right and the Morris is on the left. Tony Lopez then moved the Norweb over the Morris, and now you can see the comparison of the red arc of the Morris compared to that of the Norweb. Again, a complete outlier. Okay, let's go to slide 6. Here we'll compare the reverse and the stylistic differences of lettering. On the left is the Morris and on the right is the Newman. On genuine Judd 1s, such as the Newman, the E is, the base of the E is pointed upwards as indicated by the red arrow. An enlarged view of the E is beneath that example. Now contrast that to the Morris. Note in the upper view, the E is pointing downwards. When you look at it in an enlarged fashion in the bottom image, not only do you see the E is most definitely pointing downwards, the whole design of the E is completely different from that of a genuine. Additionally, there is very good remnants of tooling on the silver plug. Now let's go to slide 7. This is where it starts to get interesting. Waiting for slide 7. Here it comes, I bet. There we go. This is the 1905 SH&H Chapman auction catalog for the Charles Morris collection. It had a wonderful photograph, as seen at the top, that definitely shows where the silver plug on the Morris is. No questions about it. The Chapmans were quite aware of silver plugs because as early as 1882, in their auction catalogs, they would identify a Judd 1 silver plug as being inserted before the coin was struck. However, in the Morris catalog, underlined, as you can see, the plug in this specimen has been inserted, italicized after, with the silver center falsely inserted. P. Scott Rubin presented an article for the A&S Coinage of the Americas Conference, where he studied Judd 1s from 1862 through 1983. During that entire period, there were 38 auction appearances of Judd 1s, of which we found 11 citations that mention the plug was inserted before striking. Only the Chapman 1905 catalog used the word after. 4 of these commentaries identifying before occurred before the 1905 auction, and 7 occurred after the 1905 auction, with the last reference being 1947. And from then on, this aspect of identifying Judd 1s was no longer being used by auction catalogs. Let's move on to Exhibit 8. This is where we believe the errors began for the Morris specimen. The 1974 Gina sale. And on the front cover is a wonderful image of the Morris specimen. And in the lower right-hand corner, Walter Breen wrote, "I didn't think I'd ever see, let alone catalog, this coin." And then he mentions that they reviewed over 800 to possibly 1,000 catalogs. It is the most extensive catalog description for a Judd 1 up to that point in time. However, there were some errors in the descriptions and misattributions. Additionally, for some reason, the 1905 Chapman catalog of the Morris auction was missed. They also misattributed the Gents and Colton Davis specimen. We go to Exhibit 9. In the upper left-hand corner is the Smithsonian example. A beautiful coin. Then below it is the 1921 image of the Gent specimen. The right-hand top, the 1890 Colton Davis coin. And as you can see, both those coins are identical to the Smithsonian. The Morris is not. Therefore, this issue was corrected. Let's go to slide 10. Again, the 1905 image of the Morris specimen is in the upper left-hand corner. The 1974 Gina sale, the 2012 Heritage Auction sale, and the Stax Bauer sale, all are identical. And as you can see, all photos are extremely clear. However, while going through this process and evaluating Silver Center plugs, one expert told me that this was genuine, that a silver plug couldn't be inserted, or if it was, the process would not be profitable. I had no idea whether this was true or not, so I set about fabricating Silver Center cents. In this case, I will go to Exhibit 11. Here we have Indian head cents. I chose the Indian head cent because the image and in the center with the ear is far more complicated than the Judd 1. On the reverse, the 1 cent is in the center area, very much like that of the Judd 1. As you will see, I don't know if you can zoom in on these coins, Leonard.
Probably not.
If not, don't worry about it. What I can tell you is the design engraving is fantastic. In order to accomplish this, I enlisted the services of Ken Hopple. He's only a 45-year tool and die engineer and expert. He is also the former chief coiner of the Carson City Mint. And when I asked him about could a Silver Center cent be fabricated, he says, without question, no problem, we can do it. To do the engraving, he introduced me to an engraver Jeannie Lachelle, a 25-year artist engraver who considers herself average to somewhat above average. As you can see, and you can zoom back out now to the normal size, as you can see, both of these images are the before and after comparisons. Let's go to slide 12. On the right, you can see the Morris in the upper right-hand corner compared again to the Newman. Now, look at the quality of the engraving of the Morris compared to a struck copy of the Newman. Now compare that to what we accomplished in the Indian Head Silver Center Cent fabrication study. The silver plug is beautiful. The engraving looks very much like it was struck. We had 6 copies fabricated. There is no question the Morris cent was a schlock job compared to what we achieved. Now for the process of fabrication, let's go to Exhibit 13. In the upper left-hand corner is Ken Hoppel. He's a wonderful guy. He also does fabrications for antique autos, and if you don't have a part and can't find it, he can make it. Well, he's standing there in his shop. All the equipment that we used in this fabrication process was available in 1905. Nothing was used that would have been out of that time frame. Ken fabricated a silver plug, which is seen in the lower right-hand corner. To fabricate a silver plug and then to insert it, the whole process took between 30 and 45 minutes. When the silver plug was fashioned and the hole in the Indian head cent had been drilled and then reamed out, the plug was inserted by hand. In the center up image, we are lowering the Indian head cent into a vise, and with the vise turned just slightly, the plug is set firmly into the Indian head cent. Then the process of removing excess silver, a mask is created to shield the coin. The excess silver is removed so the engraver has less work to do. In the bottom center, you can see the finished prototype Silver Center cent and the mask that we use. In the bottom left-hand corner, centering drill versus finishing drill. I will come back to that because that happens to be an important slide, and I'd like you to know that not one person in the numismatic field, when I showed them these images and gave them time to look, focused on this particular slide. Let's go to Exhibit 14. On the left is Ken Hoppel, and on the right is Jeannie Lachelle. This is the night that I presented Ken with specimen number 6, the Ken Hoppel specimen, at the Reno Coin Club. Ken walked into the room, and behind him was Jeannie. I looked at her, she looked at me, she let out a big smile, and I said, "Does this mean what I think it does?" Because throughout this process, I was sworn to secrecy by Jeannie. She's very much concerned for her safety, given her talents and the number of nefarious people out in the world today. But as she saw this project unfold, become larger and larger, and that it was going to become part of numismatic history, she finally realized that I want my name associated with this. And on that evening, she removed the restriction, and thus we can say thank you very much to Jeannie for her absolute superb job. Let's go to the next slide, Exhibit 15. Here we have the Judd 1A, and take a look at the hole on the Judd 1A. Has an odd configuration to it. Now, Len, you can ask people to raise their hands, and the question is, and there's no guessing, do you know why the hole looks the way it does? You can say yes or no. I'd say yes. Why does it look that way? Not one person that I showed this to could answer that question. However, when I showed the image of the 1A to 3 people, first one was Chris Eckfeldt, direct descendant to Adam Eckfeldt of the 1792 mint, and it was from Chris Eckfeldt that I acquired the Eckfeldt family collection and all of the medals and documentation that reside in the Resolute collection, and that eventually will be donated to keep it together after I finish my research. However, Chris looked at it and immediately he said, oh, the drill danced. I like that term. Ken Hoppel looked at it. He says, oh, there's no question about it. The drill wobbled. The third person is my brother-in-law, Terry Boyer, who is a graduate machining engineer fabricating some of the most advanced pieces, including for nuclear power plants. And he looked at it and said exactly the same thing. Now I'll go back to the centering drill versus the finishing drill. If any of you have ever tried to screw into a 2x4, if you don't do that tap with a punch and put the screw in, if you don't do that, the screw wobbles. But if you tap it, the screw goes in. Well, in this case, back in 1792, they did not use a centering drill. They used just a drill, or call it a finishing drill. So when it hit, it would wobble, and then that's that initial area that catches on the surface. Now, in auction catalogs, silver plugs have been described as conical shape. Several people mentioned this to me while we were doing our investigation. I believe that's an inappropriate description, because you have on the top where the drill wanders a bit, and beneath it, after it catches, you have the hole. I would say the shape is more mushroom-like rather than conical shape. Let's go to slide 16. While we were conducting our research, there was a theory proffered in the field about why the Morris looked different from all the other Judd 1s. The theory was, aha, this was the first one. This is what they designed, and they did it by hand. And then once they did it, they started fabricating the Judd 1s. Remember, the silver plug looks entirely different from all the others. Let's go to the next slide. 16 continued.
Sorry.
Don't worry about it. I'm waiting. You'll catch up with me. Here we go. This is a wonderful quote. We sourced this from none other than the 1792 book with our esteemed colleague Len Augsburger, who's doing this. And it's from December 18, 1792, where Jefferson writes to Washington, conveying 2 Judd 1s with the silver plug worth 3/4 cent and the copper worth 1/4 cent, and then states that Mr. Rittenhouse will then make one with fusion, mixing the silver into the mixture, a billion mixture. Then he'll make a small copper cent, and then he'll make the real cent, the large cent. So you have the rank order of Judd 1 first, Judd 2 second, small copper cent third, and the real or large cent fourth. Let's continue to the next slide. In our opinion, the copper portion of the Morris example is genuine as struck, but the silver portion is hand engraved. And that thus we argue that the source for the Morris coin was a Judd 2. In order to get this coin, they took a Judd 2, drilled it, inserted the plug, and then fabricated it. But for the fabrication study, the trial fabrication to hold, the Judd 2 would have had to come first. And as we know from Jefferson's letter, it didn't. On top of that, through our fabrication studies, we have something more. But before stating that, in the Chapman catalog, they state for the Morris collection in 1905, quote, 2 or 3 proofs in copper without the silver center are known. And this is one of these with the silver center falsely inserted, end quote. Now, going through the next slide, please. Hand drilling, plugging, engraving makes absolutely no sense for the simple reason it would have taken between 6.5 and 8.5 hours to do it. From our trial fabrication studies of the Indian Head Silver Center cents, Jeannie LaChalle gave us this estimate: 6 to 8 hours to engrave, and then we used the lower number of 30 minutes to create the silver plugs. In contrast, we had planchets with holes already made. It would have been far easier to take the blank planchet with the hole, put it in the press, and then take the screw press and stamp the coin in a matter of a couple of minutes. Let's go to the next slide, Lynn. So we come back to the beginning. For the trial fabrication theory to be plausible, Judd 2s would have had to have been made before the Judd 1, which the December 18th letter refutes. Now let's go to slide 17. Here we have what we call our facts and conclusion. The Morris Silver Center plug is a complete outlier from all other Judd 1s. The reverse lettering style on the Morris plug is completely different stylistically from genuine examples. The silver plug is heavily hand tooled. We know from the Chapmans that between 1882 and 1905, they referred to silver plugs on Judd 1s as inserted before striking or after. The Chapman brothers also again stated that the silver plug was falsely inserted. Next slide. Thank you. The errors and omissions in the Morris example cataloging by the 1974 GINA by Breen set in motion, as I said, the errors that ensued thereafter. Thomas Jefferson's letter is a killer to state why the Judd 1s came first. And again, the process of fabricating the cents demonstrates how an American metalsmith prior to 1905 could have fabricated a silver center cent that would have taken between 6.5 and 8.5 hours. Next slide. Here's where we address the idea of the profit incentive. There was a large profit opportunity here. Judd 2s sold for approximately 1/2 the value of a Judd 1. $37 versus $73.50. In 1906 and 1907, Judd 1 sold for $160 and $212.50. In Addendum 4 that you can review, later, we lay out how the costs would have occurred. There was the profit incentive. A Judd 1 in 1905 would have likely sold between $125 and $200. A Judd 2 would have cost approximately half that. We estimate the profit potential was 50 to 100% for the simple reason the cost of fabricating a silver center cent in 1905 would have been between approximately $2 and $5 in 1905 dollars. This was accomplished by analyzing economic data from 1870 to 1905. During 1870 to 1900, we had deflation and barely 1% inflation between 1900 and 1905. We utilized a railroad engineer's compensation, which was a high compensation type person that would earn $3.28 a day for that 35-year period. However, it was told to me that to do this process would require a highly talented engraver. So who other than possibly we chose, William Barber. We took his compensation. I assumed a 50-hour work week, not a 60 to an 85-hour work week. I gave him 2 weeks vacation. And with that, that would have calculated out to $9. So with the cost of the coin plus $2 to $9, you could make 50 to 100%. However, the Chapmans caught it and the coin didn't sell for that. It sold for $16. Let's go to the next slide, 18. We subjected our research to a wide array of experts in the numismatic field, over 20 affirmations, including our esteemed Len Augsburger online. In these experts, these were the types of terms that were used referencing our research: compelling, prove, inescapable conclusion, thoroughly convincing, no doubt, obvious error. On the left, you see some of the people. Let's go to the next slide. We have on this slide, including Jim Halpern of Heritage Auctions, Doug Mudd of the A&A. Next slide. Neil Masante and my friend Joe LaRose. Let's go to the next slide. I would like to highlight the people involved with this project. In the center is the top center, is the number 2 specimen, the Levine specimen, Maureen and Stuart Levine. Maureen worked with the original truth seeker, Eric Newman. She was also our editor, and she was great. Stu Levine, who can be, shall we say, opinionated, throughout this entire process. I argued with him, I debated with him, and he stated, he laid out how this project would unfold with regards to PCGS. And at every single turn about how they would respond, he was absolutely correct. On the right side, number 3 is Tony Lopez, who created the wonderful overlays and exhibits, etc. He's a master at this. For all of you who know Tony, he's been quite ill, so please send him your good wishes and all. The bottom 3 images, in the center, the number 5, the gut specimen. Ron was there right from the very beginning and was a treasure. On the left, the Halpern specimen. Jim and Heritage Auctions are to be commended for their integrity and honesty. Despite auctioning the Morris specimen in 2012 with the error, Jim said, the error needs to be corrected. Do so. He also became my consigliere throughout this entire process. And as you know, I'm the Hoppel specimen 6. There's Ken. Before opening to questions, let's go to the next slide. I would like to convey these final thoughts to the numismatic community. To help get the Morris so-called silver center cent off the market, on 2 separate occasions, I offered to contribute $150,000 to take it off the market. In one case, I proposed that I would acquire the coin and immediately convey it to the American Numismatic Society as a donation. I had discussions with Uta Wartenberg regarding this. These offers were conveyed to the chairman of the board, Bruce Stevens, of Collectors Universe, parent of PCGS. Given the totally inadequate responses from the chairman of the board, I received none, and the management of Collectors Universe and PCGS, in February, I rescinded my offer not to be reoffered again. This was a very unfortunate outcome. Having dealt with many companies in my 45-year investment career and building a $30 billion plus investment company and being one of only 2 fund managers of the year, mutual fund manager of the year, to win it 3 times for Morningstar, I have dealt with hundreds, actually thousands of companies in my career. I viewed the company's responses as poor and inadequate. I would like to also commend Joe O'Connor, who tried to assist us with PCGS. For his efforts, Joe said he was penalized by PCGS. In my opinion, he is a class act. Finally, my Judd 1 PCGS SP 58 Plus has now been crossed to an NGC slab. I will not tolerate my genuine Judd 1 being ranked below the Morris with its fake plug, in our opinion. The Morris should be decertified as a Judd 1 and removed from the PCGS census, like what Heritage Auctions has done. PCGS, do the right thing. Joe Orlando and Brett Charvel, do the right thing. Decertify the coin. This is too important a coin in our historical heritage involving Thomas Jefferson and George Washington to have this in your census. I hope that's clear. With that, let's open it up for questions. Thank you very much.
All right, Rob, thanks for compelling and frank discussion of the Morris Judd 1. I think the photographic evidence is clear. It is an outlier. There is something different about this coin. Do you have a couple questions? Tony Lopez asks, in 2020 dollars, how much profit could you make by fabricated and selling as genuine a Judd 2 faked as a Judd 1? It's similar to what we've seen in the presentation with a fake silver plug.
I would say that would probably be somewhere in the $500,700,000 range. If I looked at the Morris and said, if it was a Judd 2, what might it sell for? And then compare it to if the Morris had the genuine plug, what it would sell for. My guess is it would be somewhere in that range.
So even today, then, you think the Judd 1s are considerably more valuable than the Judd 2s?
I think the spread is narrowing because the Judd 2s are rarer than the Judd 1s. And oh, by the way, for clarification, I am a conflict of interest in stating this opinion since I own a Judd 2, so it would be in my economic incentive to say, yes, Judd 2 should be worth a lot more and closer to a Judd 1, but they would sell at a somewhat of a discount to a Judd 1.
We have another question. Was any research done regarding the Chapman claim that the Morris coin was an altered proof?
We just took it from that, from their Chapman catalog. They're making the statement, and I have no idea how they source that. None of us do, but that was their opinion, and that's 1905.
All right, a couple other questions here. I'm not sure how much you can share, but we'll give it a shot. Who currently owns the Morris coin? What does the current owner think about your research? And did you talk to Stax Bowers about the piece after the auction?
Okay, I don't feel comfortable in disclosing the owner's name. People can check it out, but I prefer to leave his name confidential. As to whether I had discussed our research with the owner, I did. It was serendipity. I met him for the first time while he was helping Stax Bowers behind the counter. And when he came up to me, I introduced myself. It was, shall we say, obviously, he had a different opinion. And I explained what it was. And then I also said that I had offered to convey $150,000 to help get the coin off the market. There had been a discussion of a consortium, and my $150,000 would have brought the value up to the complete price of the hammer price that did not follow through of $900,000. And if he did not think I was genuine in that, I recommended that he talk to Jim Halpern about it. And what was the third one?
Did you talk to Stax Bowers about the piece after the auction?
We did talk to Stax Bowers.
All right, one additional comment, no question, but just a big thanks for the research. And he read the paper on NNP and it was fascinated by that. One other question. I don't know if you've asked Stu, the prognosticator, about this, but what's your prediction? Where does this all end up in the next couple of years?
As it pertains to this coin, I have no idea. It's not the ball's in other people's court. I did not want to have, once I realized what we were dealing with on this coin, I did not want to have someone get, shall we say, stuck with it. I hope that somebody would do the same thing, such as when I'm going to be buying something in the future. It was out of that. It was out of that mission to do it. I had no economic incentive. If you look at it, by decertifying the Morris and making the population smaller, theoretically, I would be working against my own self-interest. Secondly, if I allowed the auction, if this were allowed to go through, then with our work published, I should say, with our work not being published, then the new owner would have acquired the Morris specimen. That would have taken another prospective buyer out of the marketplace that I would have to compete with, and theoretically, I would pay potentially a lower price. So I think in how we approach this, everything was done without a conflict of interest. And in fact, I was working against my own self-interest, theoretically.
All right, we've got no more questions here. I want to thank you for the presentation. It's going to be fascinating to watch the developments on this over the next couple of years. For folks who want to read up more on this, the Rodriguez research paper is available on Newman Portal. Contains all the detail covered this morning and probably a little bit more, so well worth reading.
Also, don't forget, Len, all of the affirmations are on the NNP too.
Right. One final question. Is any non-destructive technique available to analyze the metallic contents of the plug?
Oh, that can be done, and you could, but if you're going to do a metallic test, you would probably have to do them all. But when we're investigating the 1792 silver diem, we already know that the silver mixtures on all three silver diems are of the same composition, so that can be done.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. We've got to wrap this up, get on to the next presentation. But Rob, I want to thank you for putting all this together. And all of this research has pretty much been at your own expense. You're not being compensated for this. This is just strictly in the interest of numismatics. So just a big shout out for making that investment into the scholarship of the hobby. I think it just lifts the practice of numismatics way up. So with that, we'll wrap it up. And Rob, thanks very much for putting this together.
And thank you very much, Len, and thank you, Newman Numismatic Portal. And I look forward to listening to some of the other presentations.
Excellent. Thank you, Rob.